what I wanted to talk about. Friday came along. I mean, let's try and forget the fact that Friday afternoon I was singing everybody's praises. But Friday came along. We're going to dive into that later. I thought, well, that's a neat thing to talk about. I'm going to talk about the crash. Then the week recovered. Yesterday was a long day, so I changed it again to wasn't even anything to worry about. Wake up early hours this morning, and yet you've guessed it, the market's gone under again. But we have seen some recovery, and some assets, including one we're all hoping turns out to be pretty good, have had a great day. We're seeing some pretty interesting TA. Well, I say TA, let's just call it price action. I think TA is going to be quite hard to do for a little bit now, especially with what happened. I'll give you my thoughts on that a little bit later on. I have no idea how long the internet is going to last for, so I'm kind of praying that this works. I'm going to continue because I am actually recording it, and if I have to end the stream, I'll end the stream and I will just continue the video. But Erjan's already saying I've frozen twice, which is probably never a good sign. Just please, if you can hear me, just let me know how bad it is. I'll have Discord open as well, so if anyone can just let me know on Discord, and we will go from there. Okay, let me just move that over here so I can see it. Hide that now. Sorry. Just trying to get a little bit ready so I can have anyone telling me in Discord that we've lost a chat. Okay, right. Let's just see what happens. Let's dive in. I'm going to try and get through this as quick as I can then, so that we can avoid any question. Look at the charts here, 3-day time frame. I mean, if you didn't know what happened on Friday, you would, because with 3 days, we don't know which days happened. We would have just said all-time high, pull back. And look where we pulled back to. Right back down on this chart, the Bitstamp chart, right the way back down to that sort of 110,000 level, major support and resistance, just back into the range. And I know on Friday I was talking about the fact that we may have actually broken out from that range. I think an argument now has to be made that we haven't. And what we've really done is we've got this here. I'll bring it up on the bigger screen. I don't know why I'm trying to strain your eyes. We've kind of got this here as it. We can get rid of this line. And this is the range that we're potentially working within. But the fact that we had such a strong bounce from that one kind of reinforces, at least in my opinion, how strong that 1010 level is, and the fact that we're in this range. Now, we have had a bounce from that, but as you can see, we haven't really cleared it yet. So there's still a bit of work that needs to be done in and around there, but ultimately, if you didn't know what happened on Friday and over the weekend, we're just still within that range. And I think for Bitcoin, that's pretty good. And for those of you that hold Bitcoin in your portfolio, as opposed to other altcoins outside of Tau, you might have realized that, might have felt that your portfolio didn't suffer too badly actually in this crash, and that you've kind of seen it there before. Certainly the impression that I got. We look at overall Bitcoin dominance, and there you go. I've been saying it for ages. We're going to get back up to that 62, 63 level. It may be a wick and it may be a candle, but we did it. So that's it. Vindicated, validated, however you want to put that across. But all jokes aside, get rid of the wick. We're still just snaking upwards. Bitcoin, you can either say that it is ranging in this area or it's actually climbing back up. I still feel that actually Bitcoin dominance will climb. Whenever we do get that recovery, I still think that Bitcoin is going to shine for a little bit before we roll over into alts. And I'll give my reason why on that a little bit later on. If this was a vector candle, there is a concern that actually we may need to revisit the top of that wick. But we'll just leave that there. As I say, TA on what happened on Friday might be a bit difficult to play out, but we'll keep that going. Total 2 on the other hand, it collapsed, went down to the bottom of the range. We're now, right down to this level here that we were sort of peaking at over the summer, but we had another strong bounce than that. I mean, altcoins got devastated. Some altcoins went down to zero, actual zero, which is unbelievable. So yeah, we can expect that there. But what is interesting, we're back in the range, similar to what Bitcoin is doing. We're at the bottom end of that range. Again, if I just use this line just to sort of show where we kind of got to, we bounced down here. We're in this bottom range. This is my new sort of kind of range area, I suppose. And we're just sort of working our way here. Fine to be here, but we don't want to be closing below this. That $1.5 trillion. Key level for us that we need to consider. And then, how many weeks have we waited for a chart like this? I mean, actually, it does scare me a little bit. But let us just enjoy what this is for what this is. Friday was flying. Thank God it did fly Friday afternoon. because when Friday night occurred, minimal damage really. I mean, I know it went down to 240 on this chart. Some of you even saw it down as low as 140 on other exchanges. Well done for any of you that managed to pick something up there. That is very impressive. Sorry, I'll just make sure the mic and everything was still going ahead. But look at how it's recovered now. Of all of the ones that I'm looking at, it's the only one that has climbed up today. Come on, let's do it. We'll just drop it onto the daily, actually, just because we might as well enjoy this. Look at those candles. Friday, kind of actually a spinning top candle. Head and tail wick, kind of along as each other. Big red body, fine. Roll on into Saturday. We tried to recover, couldn't really get the momentum going. Sunday, something happened on Sunday to turn the markets around, and BitTensor went, yes, please. Flying straight up into this white trend line. I thought, that's what I'm going to be talking about. Rejection from here. But actually, yesterday we saw it fly through that, taking out consecutive previous lower highs. We'll go through all of this a little bit later on. It's worth it. We've waited long enough for me to be able to talk positively about it. Look at that 12-hour candle from this morning. When the markets crashed, so did BitTensor, but it went, no, I'm going back to this support, and then I'm putting in one hell of a low test, which it has done. That seems to be following through with 5 hours to go on the other 12-hour candle. Let's just see how far we go. Oh, we said frozen. Hopefully you'll be recovering. I do apologize if it is. As I said, the internet's not great. I'm going to keep going, and you can catch it up on BMO. Obviously, with a move like this, from wherever you want to call it, 240, 160, all the way up to 466 at the moment, we have to be prepared. We do have to be prepared for people taking profit. You cannot go into any kind of sort of move like this and not expect at some stage a pullback. That's fine. That's what we want. It's healthy. We're just going to find some levels later on where we want it to bounce from. But the fact that this thing is shining when none of the other ones are, I'm not saying we were vindicated in picking it, because it's taken a while to get here, but it feels good. It feels good right now, and I am enjoying the speed at which it's going through there. So, yeah, we're going to later on. Okay. I mean, unless you've lived under a rock, and if you have, I'm not sure why you're tuning to these every Tuesday, you're going to know Friday saw Bitcoin, crypto market, and actually, to be fair, the traditional markets plummet off an announcement from Trump that basically he started it out with a very long truth post about the fact that China are effectively trying to bully other companies, and there's some rare minerals that we need for just about every electrical device in the world, apparently, that they are just trying to bully countries into, rolling over to whatever deals they want. Trump wasn't very happy with that, and he put this out there, and that kind of spooked the markets. And, this is what the markets looked like on Friday before he put the post out. So we're kind of just moving sideways. 121,000 we were at. And then let's just, how fast is this going to move it forward? That's the question when I hit play. Here we go. And then, yeah, the markets just start to fall off the back of this, and down it goes. And it actually continues to fall throughout the trading hours for the US in America, the US traditional markets. And down it kept on going. But then things got worse, because about 1 minute after the US markets closed, Trump decides, and this has got to be orchestrated. I'm not saying that he was in on it. I hate to suggest that, obviously. And we could talk about the insider trading, although I don't think I got the time or the bandwidth to go into it. But straight after the markets had closed, that's it. Here's what he's decided. Someone's letting loose on his phone again. It's an additional 100% tariff on China. They already have 30%. That would have been 130%. So that then sent the markets into overtime, really. So again, first post, here it was. Markets reacted, came back down, got ourselves a little breather. And then, as I said, look, 9:30 is when the US closes, UK time. And then he posted here. I can't remember the exact time, but sort of like 9:31 or whatever. And then bang, Bitcoin then goes from 117,000 on my charts down to 109,000, as we've seen in the news article and some of the other ones, all the way down to 102,000, ripping through Bitcoin and crypto markets alone, because the traditional markets had closed. Yes, they were after hours, but traditional markets closed, which basically just like Bitcoin facing the brunt of it. And as I say, some altcoins got utterly eviscerated. XRP down 70%. Ondo down 70%. I'm just looking at the ones that are on my list. SPX down 60%, NEAR down 50%, Link was down 60%, Solana I think was down 30-40%. I can't remember where BitTensor went. It probably was down about 80% at one stage, but we saw it happen. And then, as I say, we carried on with the weekend trying to make some recovery, and then we did recover. And why? Oh, Donald Trump was let loose on his phone again, and he was like, "Don't worry about China, it's going to be fine. I respect the man. It's going to be all right. We don't want to cause any harm to them. We'll get it recovered." And what a coincidence. He posted that on Sunday so that the markets could recover when the futures open Sunday night and feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And, whether we'll hopefully have some time and some bandwidth to talk about the whether it was leverage or the China tariffs or both that caused the crash. The point is, and someone posted this here, and I think it's very true, this is just a playbook. I put this on our Discord as well. Anything to do with tariffs, it is the same play. Tariffs are mentioned, market shits the bed. Then Trump comes back out, sort of not quite saying that they're going to go against it, but just eases the concerns. Markets recover, we rally on up. And it's happened, this is April when the tariffs were announced and we finally got the numbers on what they were going to be. Then it was, "Oh no, Mexico and Canada will work with you, don't worry about it. We'll delay the tariffs, let's go." Market rallies. Comes back to the beginning of July, if you remember. "Oh, everyone's messing me about, that's it. Tariffs have started August 1st. I'm going to hit you with them." 2 or 3 days later, "Actually, you know what? We're working with everyone. I think it'll be okay." Markets rip. And markets haven't quite ripped yet. And there was a reason for that, why the markets kind of crashed this morning, I think. But, we are expecting, tariffs aren't going to come in place until the 1st of November. I'm sure that China and the US are going to get together and hash this out before then. But interestingly, this morning in the early hours, UK time, I suppose, from why we woke up to some red, is China had effectively said, I don't have a tweet for it, that they're going to fight these tariffs tooth and nail. So, they were sort of not buying into this just yet, but I think they're posturing as well, and we'll get that sort of cohesion and that connection a little bit later on. In terms of liquidation, so you've seen this 19 billion biggest ever crypto liquidation on record, 19 billion across the market. Just to clarify some confusion there, because some people aren't quite aware, that's not actually 19 billion of retailers' money in their back pocket. What that is let's just say you have $1,000 on Binance or Bybit and you want to perp trade it, and you put that at 100x. That's $100,000 you're going with, 100x of your 1,000, and that 100,000 is what gets put in that 19 billion cushion. When actually whittled down, whoever it was actually only lost 1,000. I say only, but that's how it works. So that figure isn't necessarily correct, but that is the total of the leveraged amount of longs that were effectively liquidated. And when we talk about longs that were liquidated, people that were on 1x got liquidated. 1x is basically you just have to get back to zero or whatever. They still got liquidated, and we'll go into that a little bit later on. But I'm not necessarily too bothered about sort of where this is here. People are sort of pointing out the size difference between the levels of liquidation. The COVID crash, for those of you around, was only 1.2 billion. That's something like a lot of money at the time. FTX, which wasn't that long ago, 1.6 billion, and then now 19 billion. And I think there's 2 points from this. One, I think the point really needs to be, well, how big, how mature were the markets at the time? So during the COVID crash, the total market cap was actually, sorry, just looking there, somewhere between 260 and 310 billion. Depends on where you want to start it from. I was being generous up here. That's it, 260, 310 billion. Ethereum's market cap's more than that at the moment. So a very immature market compared to where we are. So the fact that it was 1.2 billion, maybe not so surprising. FTX, it was market cap was at $1 trillion. So, okay, quarter of the size, sorry, 4 times the size of what the market was back in COVID, and roughly about the same. We're now 4 more times that at 4.25, and it's 19 billion. that was liquidated. I think the point that I really take from this more than anything else is that we have more money in this market sloshing around in perp trading than we ever did in previous bull markets. And that is going to come back to bite us in the arse, I think, when we do get a bear market. I'll talk about it now, sorry, because I'm on that train of thought. What I mentioned was there were certain tokens that went to zero. Atom, it's not exactly page 1000 of CoinMarketCap. It's in the top 100. Atom went from $4 to $0. Okay, the entire order book was eaten up in that crash. Okay, Fartcoin. I mean, look at some of these wicks. Fartcoin went from 65 cents down to 9 cents. And I'm sure if I went on other exchanges, because I did read that Fartcoin went to zero as well, I'd be able to see it go all the way down. XRP, one of the biggest, went from 290 down to 117. Polkadot, everyone knows how much I love that one. $4 down to 63. I've seen it down at 35 on other exchanges. ADA the same, 83 down to 26. I'm not talking about small altcoins here. You'll understand what I'm trying to get at in a minute. Filecoin from 260 down to 30. Bonk down to, I can't even read that figure, but low. Apex again from 245 down to 85. PopCap 23 down to 6. And so that's probably not as bad, but still fell pretty far, I suppose. And the point I'm trying to make from this is people don't see, well, I'll ask a question, I suppose, and then, so I'll answer it myself. But when Friday happened, the speed at which it happened, especially the second crash after the second announcement, it was kind of done and dusted in 15 minutes. That is not, in my opinion, people going, uh-oh, the market's crashing. I'm going to fire up my old Trezor account and move stuff across an exchange and sell it. I'm out. That isn't what happened. I don't think that was spot selling at all that caused that. This is liquidation cascading or cascading liquidations that just caused the market to drive down. And so what we were having with, let's just use Atom as an example, the speed at which this was going down to try and close those orders, because you remember, whoever's long in it, there has to be a short on the other side. They were just eating through the order book and they were going further and further down. So those people, market makers that had put a short in or the other side of a long, shall we say, they could wait till they got all the way down to the very bottom before they got filled. And this to me is a major concern. And maybe our altcoin's okay because it's done all right. But this market is built up predominantly, I would argue, certainly the altcoin market, on leveraged tokens, not people holding spot. It's people building up market caps of these tokens based on perp trading. And why is that an issue? Well, that's an issue because when we do see a bear market, no one's selling spot. They're just going to get liquidated and we're going to see those cascades happen again. And we saw tokens, massive tokens like XRP losing 70, 80% of their value in 30. That is what we expect an altcoin to lose pretty much in the entire length of a bear market, and it was already gone. And so my worry now with anyone holding altcoins is, fine, yes, we can take the risk with altcoins. We can try and drive that price as high as we can before getting out. But if we do time it wrong, this market could get from underneath us whilst you're out grabbing a coffee or whatever. So we just need to bear that in mind. Now, I will say BitTensor has done very well. The vast majority of you guys that I'm speaking to holding BitTensor and associated Detail. I don't even know how Detail did during all of this crash. I presume okay initially and then maybe not so well right now because BitTensor's flying. Maybe that's having a knock-on effect. Someone in the chat can let me know. But that's just something we need to bear in mind with the altcoin market. Anyway, when we have a look at alt season dominance, I always tell you this, and I stand by it. Alt seasons, when they happen, they burn bright, but they burn fast. And we were not in an alt season for long before a crushing correction taking us back down. We're kind of in that cooling off section. Bitcoin dominance is climbing. We'll have to wait and see whether or not altcoins can recover again. So I just think we just need to bear that in mind. And that's why, I go back to, if I can find a chart with Bitcoin on it. Let's go back to this first one. Bitcoin, as much as it did fall, it managed to shoulder a lot of that within 7-8% of its overall market cap, far greater than what the rest of the altcoin market did. And that is more evident because look at how much Bitcoin dominance rallied whilst the rest of the altcoin market just utterly collapsed on itself. And I still stand by majority of this market has been propped up by Bitcoin, has been propped up by the ETFs. And what we're actually now seeing is that altcoins, there's not really much spot liquidity there. And so we just need to be cautious of that. That's probably my sort of takeaway from it all. Thanks, Chris. I actually don't know what subnet's 1.01 means, but hopefully that's good. Yeah, I probably should know. I'm sorry. It's not part of what I am doing right now. Anyway, kind of got out of order with all of the things I was wanting to talk about. So we have to try and refine my place. Oh, and yeah, it wasn't just crypto. So this is a snapshot of how the markets look. The Nasdaq. I'm assuming it's the Nasdaq. I took a screenshot of this from someone else because I didn't do it at the time. Looked, sort of towards the close, after the first fall, not the second fall, and we can see massive figures. They don't seem like a lot, but 4% of Amazon lost its value. God knows how many hundreds of billions that probably was. Yeah, Nvidia 4%, Avgo 5%. So real big shock across the entire system. I don't need to talk about that now. It's fine. And then even today, this Japan, not Japan. Sorry, this China announced that they're going to fight it. That's what saw the legs get taken under from Bitcoin and the market again today. It's nice to see that at least Tau was green, but at the time, 206 billion wiped out from the crypto market. And if we actually have a look at the moment at total market cap, which they now put down at the bottom, so we were 4.3 trillion. You can't see because my head's in the way. We are now 3.8 trillion, and that's even after a semi-recovery today. We go to actual total, and we got down to 3.23, so nearly $1 trillion was lost last weekend. Unbelievable, 25% of the market. Chris has put subnet value 101 alpha against 1,000, so it's ever so slightly ahead. Is that how I'm reading that? Okay, well, good stuff. Right, let's have a look at some charting, and then we'll take it from there. So the old classic Bitcoin 12-hour chart where I use my liquidation levels. This was Friday, and remember, for those of you that did tune in Friday afternoon, I was pretty bullish, particularly on BitTensor. I wouldn't say I necessarily felt like a fool come Friday night, but I wasn't quite expecting that. And we were talking about if only it closes above 360, we'll be fine. It'll take a miracle or a disaster, should I say, for it to be closed below that. We can start talking about making higher highs, and then the disaster happened. But you can see the speed that it happened straight through those liquidations there. Every other liquidation got taken out. And then according to my chart, it hit this level 2 on the Fibonacci's, and it bounced. However, interestingly enough, I turned these ones here orange because my chart didn't tell the full picture. When you actually look at Coinank liquidation heat map, look at it, right? This was the collapse, this was the fall. And now look, there's nothing in and around from 100,000 to 105. One, people are scared to go long, and two, it took everything out. All these bright areas here, it actually took it all the way down, because we got down to, on some charts, down as low as 101,600. And so you can see that we actually cleared out, because it isn't on my chart, but really this should have gone like this and taken all of those two out as well. So we have wiped out, that's why it was so much, that's why we had that cascading effect. We've just taken out all of these, bounce from it strong, but as I say, not a real big area building up right now. Got a little bit in and around here, but not a huge value, in the hundreds of millions rather than anything that's in the billions just yet. So yeah, we've kind of cleared all of that out. And actually, when you then go back and have a look at this, again, go back to this original 3-day chart. Oops. With Bitcoin, if I can just get rid of some of this stuff. Just have a look, ignore this line now. Because, again, That's not what I meant to do. Sorry. Try that one again, shall we? This went all the way down to here, and it bounced off this bottom level, which was the one we held for ages as our lower support level. We will get on vector candles later. It's wiped all of those out as well, create some new ones on in its wake, I should add. But it's come back down and it found support here. So good, we found support from it. Pretty close to the 50 EMA on the weekly time frame as well. Actually, it's found about 100,000, so it didn't quite hit it, but it did get close enough. We've seen it bounce from there. What I would say, unfortunately, and we'll have a look at it in the vector a little bit later on, is this has left some damage in its wake. Because this is quite a fresh wound, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see that recollect. But let's just try and remain at least semi-positive, because we did stay afloat at the end of the day. Let's clear those so I don't end up saving them. And then we'll have a look at how our Canary's doing. So we're really only interested in BlackRock. So Friday's when it's happened. So they did buy on Friday, but the news happened a bit later on. But Monday, people still came in and bought. They decided that the price was right, at least for BlackRock. The rest of the ETFs, they were kind of scared. And I don't blame them, but they sold. So we were down 326 million on the day, but BlackRock still bought. And you can kind of see, doing well with the buying. This is not the same story for Ethereum, unfortunately, where on Friday and yesterday, and I can assure you today, there are some sells. And even BlackRock is not kind of that interested right now. So certainly something to look for. To be fair, BlackRock are, they did send, let's have a look, 700 BTC to Coinbase. At the beginning of today, I imagine that will lead to a sale, but we'll wait for the figures at the end of the day to work that one out. And it was 90,000 Ethereum was also sent today. So again, probably another bit of a selling off there. But when we look at again on the charts that I use, Bitstamp is the main one I use. That fall for Bitcoin weekly time frame, just because of the 20 EMA, we use that support all the time. There's the 50, didn't quite get down there, 100,000. Yes, the wick. Let's find that chart that actually does go all the way down there. Here, pretty close, but not quite. Still held above it. Certainly didn't close below it. So no reason right now to suggest that there's anything other than forwards. Sorry, let me just look here. Okay, so I'm just checking, make sure that I'm at least still talking to somebody. Right, coin market cap. Bit sensor, 24 hour, it is number one. 7 day, bearing in mind, 7 days ago was Tuesday, so prior to the crash, we're still 40% up from where we were there. Not the best on the 7 day. Syntax and Zcash are ahead of BitTensor, but BitTensor has done very well. There's a handful, 4 tokens really, that have done anything this last week. There's 2 gold related ones, which gold is absolutely flying. We'll have a look at that later, so no surprise there. World Liberty Finance, break even. And then we've got all of the PEG tokens, and they're relatively broken even. You know what? I didn't check, and I wonder. Just trying to load this. Yeah. So we actually saw on Friday, not a massive losing of its PEG, but a fairly decent losing of the PEG on Friday. Not as bad as when Terra Luna went under in UST, but, definitely saw that blip on it. We've done the Atom, we've done this. Fear and Greed Index, currently at 38, not surprising. Got all the way down to 24 again on Friday, not surprising. We are recovering from that. But interesting that we were greed last week. This is the problem, isn't it? And again, this is maybe why perps are what's driving this, because it is quite unnerving to perp trade. You've got to worry about your entries, worry about your stop losses, worry about your liquidations, worry about how you get out, and so you can be quite mixed emotions there. And to go from greed to extreme fear in the space of 7 days, whilst we're supposed to be in a bull run, kind of just shows you, just the sentiment in the market, how quickly that can change. And I think that is associated with perp trading. Anyway, right. I didn't get any questions this week, which is great because I'm not sure I could last with it. I think we should get into some charting really. And to break from tradition, I'm going to talk about BitTensor first because I think BitTensor deserves it. Here we are, daily time frame, vector candles. So, have a look at silver. I will have a look at silver. All-time highs, looking strong. I don't think it's necessarily means it's going to turn around anytime soon, but yes, I will have a look at it. So here we are. So for months, I've been moaning about BitTensor with these lower highs, lower highs after lower highs, and lower lows to go with them as well. Waiting for it to finally do something, and then lo and behold, Friday happened. And again, Friday we'd broken it. I thought, great, we cleared these. Friday happened. Fair enough. We come back down, and then we move up. And what I do like about it is in this move, taking out that lower high, taking out that lower high, taking out that lower high, and we've taken out this lower high. Matter of fact, now we've actually, depending on how we close today, taken out all of those lower highs as well. Okay, so really, the next big battle for us is at 560, and then all-time highs. Okay, so this move has undone 7 months of pessimism, certainly in my eyes. But it's just waiting for that. Now, this is where we start to second guess ourselves in terms of, was this the ideal time for accumulation? And was there anything better we could have done? We did some side steps. Some were good, some were bad. Hopefully, most of you have ended up with more tau now for either detail or just sidestepping tau than how you started the year. And if that's the case, for now, the pain is worth it. Hopefully your portfolios are looking better. And once we mention that, let's have a look at how the poll's doing. Actually, so, generally, 84% people have either done well or tau saved the day. So, you go across crypto Twitter, that ain't the case. We're talking about, people doing the absolute worst of themselves, because of being liquidated, which unfortunately happens every time mass liquidations like this happen. But for us to have been able to sell the ship, and we don't really perp trade that much, so our risk management is a little bit different, and those that do perp trade, I don't think you do with your whole portfolio anyway, so we can balance it. But this has really helped us here, and the only thing that we really got to sort of worry about, and you can kind of see it. You'd have to be blind not to think as strong as that move has been. Let me just get rid of some of these. We have left some vector candles behind us, and whilst we are kind of out of this range, but we're still playing around with it. But we just got to worry that the steepness of this would demand a retest, and also take out the vectors. But that being said, though, and we're on the daily time frame, look at this blue vector candle. This blue vector candle doesn't have a vector. Why? Because today it came all the way down to clear out the entire vector candle before recovering from that. So when we drop onto the 4-hour time frame, we can kind of see this move down and taking out that vector. Now it has left some in our wake again. We had this green vector candle, but again, that's been taken out. So it is on lower time frames, at least behave in a way that we'd like it to see, in that, yes, it's moving aggressively, but it's having those pullbacks. It's allowing people to take profit and then to rebuy in. Market makers, however, they're sort of doing it. I don't want to get into that right now. And we're seeing sort of a very positive reaction from that. EMAs are looking great in terms of how they're spread out, using the 10, the 20 on the 4-hour to our benefit in terms of pullbacks and bounces from those. Absolutely happy. The 50 EMA was only hit on Sunday night, so not that long ago. So it doesn't necessarily negate, so mean that we have to get back there. And now we can start talking about, the fact that we're not going to be able to see them because they've all cleared. We've cleared so many of these other vectors that were sat here for months. And really then, these vectors up here, they become our next area of interest. 540, 500. I actually don't think they're out of the realm of possibility in terms of how strong this move has been. It has gone against the market, and I think we should always be conscious of that. But whatever reason it is climbing, this is now not that far away. We're literally talking about a 5% move to get to 500, $25 away from where it is. So I don't think that's too difficult a move to necessarily ask for. I just want to take us back to, and this is not, I don't know if Bijan's on the call. It's not necessarily to sort of say something about Bijan. Bijan asked me a couple of weeks ago, and this was on the Avenger call on the 30th of September. He actually asked me 2 weeks prior to that to have a look at the Wyckoff pattern for Bit10. So for those of you on the call, you kind of know, so I'm not going to go over it again. For those of you who are interested in how I got to the conclusion I'm about to make, just go and watch it. If you don't even want to watch it all, just go to basically minute 48 onwards for about 10-15 minutes. But let me just, because this is what I came to. Instead of we actually being in a distribution, a selling setup on the weekly time frame, which what Bijan looked like, and it said it looked like, and it did. I kind of went, well, actually, if we go down the daily, it looks like we're actually in an accumulation, and we may be looking for that move down. Now, at the time, I was talking about a spring as low as or lower than this selling climax of 160, which kind of felt a bit hard pressed. But as some of you have now told me, that wasn't necessarily the case. And this is kind of looking quite good now. So this is on my chart, MEXI, so not uphold and the other one's where it's gone lower. But you can kind of see we've had these secondary tests. We've come down, we haven't, I'm going to class this wick down here as the spring. And I'll tell you why. Because when we look at it on this chart, which is BitGet, I couldn't get an uphold one. Actually, you can kind of see that this really is a spring. It's gone up. We then went up to here. We came back down and we tested. And now we're starting to move up. Now, I appreciate it's very steep. But we are starting to clear these previous levels here. So the argument to be made when we get back is we're showing that sign of strength. We've had the test. We're now showing that sign of strength as we climb through all the previous automatic rallies. We are expecting a pullback. And I appreciate, I've just said today we've had some, but an actual proper pullback. Probably into the levels where we're at now. Once this sign of strength comes over, because it is a lot of shoulders here before that next move up in the challenge for all-time high. So actually, the Wyckoff accumulation seems to have played out pretty much textbook, I would argue. And so, yeah, let's enjoy it for what it is right now. Let's enjoy looking at our portfolios and how that sits. Be conscious of where it might take us in the future. And as I say, that looks like some prices are falling. Not too bad, but anyway. Right, let's have a look at Bitcoin, and then we'll look at a couple of others. And I'll just reiterate again, what happened on Friday with a lot of altcoins is going to kind of skew a lot of TA. And that's just the reality of dips like that. We just need to take it into account and see where that plays out. Bitcoin's strong move here. You see, EMAs didn't even stand a chance. I mean, look at the previous two all-time highs. So the one we had beginning of July, all-time high, strong rejection from that. And then we sort of fell away, 50 EMA. Built ourselves back up. New all-time high, only just next day, big strong fall down to sort of that 1010 level that we kind of talked about. We started to build ourselves up. We've had another all-time high, very strong rejection, again down to that 110 level. Are we starting to build ourselves back up? I think there's an argument for that, and had maybe that sort of China saying they were going to fight this a little bit harder, not come out this morning, we might have seen that move. But it is interesting that actually the last 3 days, the recovery has been halted at the 50 EMA. And each time we've seen that rejection back down to that 109 level, including today. So one, that 109, 110 level showing us great support right now. But the 50 EMA has actually also shown this bit of a stumbling block right now. So we really need to be marking on that sort of 115,500 kind of level. We need to break through that with speed. What we do have on our side, as we alluded to, we're back in the ranges, and we know when we range, no vector set candle is safe. And so we have got vectors all the way from 116 to 122. I do expect those to get recovered, because I do believe that we will see, whether it's the end of this week, next week, FOMC end of the month, which has got a 97% chance of a further rate cut, whatever the sentiment may be, I don't believe the bull market is over. I see us re-challenging that 126,000 level. And to do that, we obviously need to take out the vector candles. So from a daily time frame, despite the setback on Friday, we seem to be doing okay. Over the next 4 hours, if we can sort of get to 114,000 and make this look like a pretty convincing low test, that would be delightful. And that springboard there. But I am looking daily time frame 115,050 EMA as a little bit of a stumbling block right now. Go on the 4 hour, and I mean, it's the 800 EMA that is sort of providing that support. And look, 800 EMA create some sort of bottom. We come back up to where the 200 EMA is. We reject from it. 800 EMA's caught us again, potentially a double bottom forming. And now we just need to make that move. Again, the 50 and the 200 EMA now on the 4 hour crossing over each other. I'm not suggesting death cross or anything like that. I'm just suggesting that now when we get to that 116,000 level, it's going to need a vector candle. It's going to need increased volume coming in to get us through there. But we do have targets, trap liquidity for us to aim for as we go through. And again, the speed at which these happens gives me the confidence that I think we will try and retake those. So 4 hour time frame is just about being patient right now. And as long as we can kind of, well, let's just, again, 110,000, we hold that, then these double bottoms are still playing out. And we're just looking to take that one through. On the hourly, again, look, speed at which that happened, the vectors there's still vectors, 121, 120, 115. So there's targets for us to go for there. Other ones people might be interested in, Solana, strong fall, but it's starting to build now, slowly, and it's starting to climb up. Interesting one to talk about, I think, is BNB. Because prior to this, BNB was utterly ripping. Daily time frame, just no holding it back. But BNB, since the collapse on Friday, has been subject to public scrutiny because when people did load onto Binance, and for those that can perp trade on Binance, they were met with accounts frozen. They were met with liquidations being hit prior to stop losses being hit because the difference between market price and last trading price, all sorts of kind of shenanigans there. And people were suggesting that Binance, I was going to say CZ, but Binance, were not clean from this. And so it's had a bit of a bad rep over the last couple of days as sort of people started to dig into this. But interestingly, after such a strong move up, and whether we got some rise counts that we can talk about, what I do find quite interesting, daily time frame, maybe it's a little close, but you can certainly see two peaks there. That's your neckline, 101,000. 1,100, could be a neckline there. Interesting to see how that goes. If we want to say that, it's had its bad rep and it's now going to recover, daily time frame, it's come back down to the 20 EMA, which the last 3 times it's hit, actually the last 4 or 5 times it's bounced from it, the exception being Friday, but even Friday managed to recover back up to that one. Maybe it's just building its momentum for the next move up. So there could be some strength there, but I do think that public perception has caused this one to fall a little bit harder than others over the last couple of days. Ethereum. So, it did come down to 3,400, went to 200 EMA daily time frame, and it's having the same problem now that Bitcoin has gone and done. It's recovered from that, but the EMAs, because it's ranged actually sideways for so long, the 10, the 20, and the 50 are all just on top of each other. And it's proven to be a little bit of a difficult recovery. And unlike things like BNB and Bitcoin daily time frame, we're not seeing the volume for Ethereum to get us through there. So we've come back up to it. The question is this a dead cat bounce, or are we just sort of falling back down to this level here, the white line, 3,943? That was a local high for Bitcoin during this cycle. It hit it many times. We've come back down, hit that. Is this where we're going to find some strength for it to move through? But 4,240, you've got to get through that with a vector candle, in my opinion. And then we can start talking about ranging through there. But yeah, another interesting one, Zcash, that has done very well recently. I wasn't even aware of it until someone pointed it out. Beginning of the month, it was at $50. It got all the way up to 300. And even on Friday, it finished green. There weren't many that finished green on Friday, but Zcash did. and then it continued to climb through. Bit of a pullback, natural pullback for me, just getting too far away. And you see it's a very steep, so corrections will be inbound. I'm not sure what's driving this privacy coin. Maybe it's the thought of digital IDs. Who knows? Something to consider. And then let's look at Bitcoin dominance. Why did I draw that box? No idea. Let's just get rid of it. So, daily time frame. Well, no, I'm not. Sorry, I'm not. This is Bitcoin dominance. I was going to say I didn't look anything like it. So let's just clear this up. It's a bit messy. Okay, daily time frame here. That waterfall bounced off the 200 EMA. Another waterfall caught by the 800 EMA, and then it's climbed up. Okay, let's ignore the wick, but look where the body closed and the rejection came from. It's a 200 EMA again. So we've had that nice move down. Bitcoin's had the move. We're now looking to correct. We're in and around that 50 EMA battle, and I think Ethereum needs to pull its finger out. Still 20% of the total crypto market, there or thereabouts. It's going to be the one that drives Bitcoin dominance falling back down, particularly with Solana and BNB also having a bit of a sluggish time themselves. They're sort of 5 and 6%. And we know that the stable coins aren't really adding to the direction which way Bitcoin's going. So yeah, Ethereum's going to be one that needs to sort of drive that around. I would just say, going back to what I said at the beginning, this is just ranging upwards though. Yes, this wick happened, and I cannot ignore the fact that the 200 EMAs were where it turned around and came back down. But then it just, let me actually draw up a real trend line. But then it just came back down to this trend line. And for those of you that watched on Friday, it's what I drew. And it's just hit that again, and it's kind of bounced from it. And I just wonder if, we don't have that long left in the cycle, but actually if we just see this happen for a little bit, and then we see a real sharp drop before we then, bull market's over. I don't think alt season is going to be a 2-month thing. I think that'll be a very quick thing. And just stand by the points that I made at the beginning of this call as to why I believe that to be the case. So anything else really worth looking at? And I'm going to work our way through them. So total, that's fine. VIX spiked up, still climbed up again. When you're high, you buy, all that sort of mantra. That's more for me when it gets to sort of plus 30 levels. But we are moving out of the soup of around about 15, 16. Dixie is climbing. We talked about that on Friday as well. So, it's not far off 100 at the moment. And for me, it had that nice bounce off this line here. I mean, we'll have to put it on the monthly. This goes all the way back to like 2010 or something. 2008. This, I get a little blip through there. But this is just a natural pivot turnaround point. So I know everyone's hoping that that's going to happen, but I would not be surprised if it's the opposite. It's that's going to happen. So it's just where we're watching. NASDAQ, okay, it keeps on climbing. And it did have I'm on the monthly here. Let's get it back on the daily. Biggest drop, daily drop, I think since 2022, something like that. But back down to the 50, nice correction off the 50. And then we've gapped up on Monday. So maybe there's an opportunity. We have tried to close that gap a little bit. Do I have the futures? I need the... No, that's not even showing it. Okay. I was hoping to see the gap. S&P, so drop down again. Big drop, 50 EMA. Interestingly, though, it has closed its gap. So it opened up yesterday, and then today it's come back down. It's closed that. We'll start to sort of see some sort of recovery. It's kind of earnings seasons as well, so definitely something to just sort of keep an eye on. Moving down, gold. So gold has no chill. Okay, it's continuing to climb, defying the sort of the odds. And I've not bothered wasting anybody's time talking about people correlation between the 100-day difference between what gold looks like and then how that moves to Bitcoin. There is some coincidence with sort of gold making strong moves up. Then gold needs to chill out for a bit, and then Bitcoin sort of rolls over. So people taking profit from gold, maybe moving into Bitcoin. And I do think Bitcoin has done well. Whether or not it's a genuine escape from inflation or store value in concerning times, it did obviously have that pullback, but it wasn't that devastating. on the day. This is kind of just it for me. It's just moving up, and I don't really see any. And there's a lot of vector candles here, but I don't think that's anything that's to worry about. The interesting thing is, most days with gold and with silver to a certain extent, we're talking sort of $20-$30 increase, which is not normally what we see. But it is just using these EMAs very nicely. That 10 EMA, more than happy just to sort of go on with that. And as I say, all-time high today continuing to be had. Silver, okay, it has had a bit of a pullback, and it's a vector candle here. So it's not an all-time high at the moment, but it did set an all-time high today, nearly $54, just following very similarly in the path of what gold's doing. I don't usually throw these on, but someone pointed it out to me today. So I'm just going to clear this. Oh, I should have kept that one. RSI. So gold's RSI is the highest it's ever been, I believe, in its history. Let's put it. I can't remember if it's on the weekly or the monthly. I mean, on the weekly, it's at 86. On the monthly, 84, and I think it's the highest it's ever been. Oh, okay, maybe not. Maybe on this one. I'm in silver. That's fine. Gold, yeah, in the 90s. It is the highest it has ever been. So we're going to get to a point where we will see gold come on a monthly time frame here. Hell, we could last another 16 days before the next candle prints would go even higher. But this move has been very strong. And what we're hoping for, and I think there is an argument to be made, and maybe we'll cover it on Friday, is that when profit taking is here, where does that money flow into? Yes, you can argue certainly into the stock markets, particularly how well gold has outperformed that at the moment. But I think there's still an argument to be said that people know, but Bitcoin's not a new thing now. It's not just some quirky hairdresser telling you about it. Institutions know about it. People will look to try and get that. So I think gold is there, and silver, similar kind of picture. We are getting very overheated, and I appreciate I don't really use RFIs that often, but we can't ignore the fact that this has been an incredible climb for silver this year. And if we just go back the last 18 months, and the reason I mentioned March 2024 is because I sold my silver for about $25, which I thought was great because I bought it for 12, and now, I wish I'd held on. I did say I'd sell the rest at 50, and I'm being greedy, so I'm sorry that silver's about to crash because I haven't sold it yet, even though I said I would. So I've gone against my plan there. But going back onto the daily for whoever asked for it, very similar to what gold's doing. I think just the momentum is with the precious metals at the moment. And, whether that is because of flight to safety and people are just aware that at some stage the music is going to stop with the global economy at the moment. We just don't know when. We'll have to wait and see. But in terms of some of the other assets that I've been looking at, just because they're part of my get rid of the RSI now, part of my pension or something I'm looking at. Coinbase had that good move up, but you're going to expect on Friday and over the weekend that to come back down with the rest of it. Same with Circle, having that there. This was the line I was looking at to maybe get back in at. Again, I didn't pull the trigger today, but I might do, just start easing in. I still, in my heart of hearts, think wait till the bear market and then just get in whatever it is. MicroStrategy or strategy certainly struggled today, not just Friday, but even today, people selling from that there. And, its recent high, beginning of the month, 6th of October, 360, we're down 20% from there. And it's, it's all-time high, 450, 50% down from that. Nvidia is still pretty strong. Yes, it's had its pullback from what the market did, but I know OpenAI announced another partnership with, it wasn't AMD, it was someone else, so not Nvidia. So I'm sure that's taken a little bit of interest away from Nvidia. Nvidia's earnings isn't until the end of the month, so there's a bit of time for that one. Palantir, just not all-time highs, but just ranging, perfectly fine with where that's going. TauX, strong couple of days, I believe. Signpost something about DCG putting in $1 million into it, so some good fundamentals from there. And even today, it's done strong, despite opening low. It's recovered that, and Tesla kind of just ranging as well. I think that's probably where we will leave it. Actually, only because I've just seen it. Taunu, do you know what? Kind of held its own over the disaster day. Wait a second. I've got so many candles there. Tuesday, Monday. But yeah, I don't hold any of this, so it's still down, still dying, in my opinion. And Oblong's not really moved, which again, I don't hold any of this yet. So yeah, so I think that's probably where it is. Thank you for everyone that contributed in the poll. I'll close that now. It looks like 87% of us are doing okay, and I think that's well above the average. Hopefully that has. There we go. There will be a trading pub on Thursday. I will also do live charting again on Friday. God, let's hope it's nothing like what this is, and we're just looking at green candles all the way. That'd be lovely. I don't know if there's any tickets left for the cuddle. I think there was only 10 left last week. So if you haven't got it and you still want to, or you're new to the group and you want to go and you've no idea what it is, reach out to Lewis and see if there are any left, because they are on public sale as well. And yeah, if you've made it this far without having, or you've made it over the last 96 hours without having an emotional breakdown, ripping out your hair, throwing in the towel or whatever, you have done better than the vast majority of the market, and you are battle hardened now. If it's the first time it's happened to you, you can talk about the fact that you've seen something like that now, and you'll know how to react in the future. But ultimately, I don't think the signs are there to say that the actual market is over. I'm looking at the charts every day, so once that changes in my mind, I'll of course let you know. Whether or not you believe it and act on it, that's up to you, but I'll tell you what I think. Other than that, all it's for me to say is enjoy the rest of your evening, enjoy the rest of your week. Any questions, hit me up in Discord, and I'll speak to you all soon. Cheers now.